It's 2020 when teams are getting eliminated from college football playoff contention because of a thrown cleat. I mean, who throws a shoe, honestly? All right, welcome into a new episode of the BSP Sunday Morning Fantasy. I'm your co-host, Ryan Stern. Joined with me, as always, Tom Bennett, Derek Mountain. How's it going, guys?
Marco Wilson, 34 career starts. They were roasting him on the broadcast as it was last night for his play. I mean, he was getting targeted by Max Johnson, who was making his first start last night. LSU's not good. And then he does that. Like the dumbest thing I've ever seen on a football field in quite some time. That was, it was par for the course of 2020, that's for sure.
I mean, I'm sitting there watching, and I'm in bed watching the game, getting ready to go to sleep, and my wife is watching with me, and my wife never watches sports. Like, never. What they say, opposites attract. It must be, because I will watch sports 24/7, and she could give two damns about it. But I'm sitting there watching, and she was doing something on her phone, and I said, I think he just threw his at first I thought it was a towel. I thought he ripped the towel out of his pants. So I think he just got penalized for throwing, and then they showed the replay, and it was the shoe. And it was the most interested my wife had been in any sort of sports in years. I mean, in years. And she was still talking about it this morning. She even said, "I could come on and I could talk about the." I'm like, no, all right.
My favorite part of it too was his teammates' reaction immediately. The one kid just punched him in the face mask and was like, "What are you doing? You just ruined our season."
And I mean, the fact that he and the worst part about it was that he almost got let off the hook because they came down in 20 seconds, got themselves into field goal range.
Yeah, the kid had to make a 57-yarder to win, which was ridiculous. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't. It almost bailed him out.
Yeah. Sorry. I love
Notre Dame. I mean, Notre Dame's a lock. It doesn't matter what happens to them. Clemson has to win in the ACC championship, which I think they will with Lawrence back. So again, if those two, Bama, doesn't matter. They're going to be in, and then right, I think Ohio State. Right?
I need to look how to remove Derek from the feed.
I hope it's not Ohio State, man. I really don't want.
Who else would you put in? You're not putting in Texas A&M. It's not like the Florida wind's any good anymore.
Right.
Honestly, I'd like to see them have some fun and put in Coastal Carolina, just because.
Well, I want to see 8 teams this year. This is the year to do it. I want to see Cincy in there too. But, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's not going to happen. So they'll get their. I
just want them to have some fun. Like
I know. Yeah.
It's the same teams every year. It gets boring.
Yeah. Well, no. It's never boring when Notre Dame's in.
Right. Of course.
All right, so let's get into our fantasy talk. I mean, we've got first week of playoffs in the majority of leagues. I'm still in 2 leagues that have the final week of the regular season this week. But for the majority of leagues, this is the first week of playoffs. Some teams have buys. Some teams need a lot of help to move on this week, and we are here to provide it for you. So I've got a couple great segments for you today. First, we're going to start off with a little fantasy playoff primer. So we're going to talk about players that are studs at their position who have really tough matchups today, and how confident we are in actually playing with them. So we're going to start off with 3 guys who have been started all year long at the quarterback position that have really tough matchups, and it's Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, and Deshaun Watson. So we'll start off with tonight's game, which this could go down as one of the games of the year between Pittsburgh and Buffalo. This matchup may be a little bit easier this week than what it would have looked like 2 weeks ago with all the injuries that Pittsburgh has suffered over the last couple weeks on the defensive side of the ball. How confident are we in starting Josh Allen today? Derek, we'll start off with you.
I feel great about starting Josh Allen, to be honest with you. I think he actually has a good matchup. This is not the same Steelers defense that we were praising week in, week out a month ago. I mean, I think McSorley opened up some shortcomings that teams are kind of taking note. And we saw Washington last week, and they were without Antonio Gibson for the entire game. He went down with his toe injury in the first drive, and they were struggling. And before the half, they got their field goal. And after that, Pittsburgh couldn't stop Alex Smith. So you got Josh Allen in there, who's good against the blitz. Rob Spillane went down, who's playing admirably for Devin Bush. No Bud Dupree. No Joe Hayden. It's a completely different defense now, and it's one that the Bills, quite frankly, I don't think they'll be scared of going into tonight.
Tom, how about you?
Yeah, I got no hesitation starting Josh Allen. The one thing the Pittsburgh's defense has been absolutely insane at is against the run, and they've been kind of poor against the pass. And the one thing that the Bills do good on offense is move the ball through the air, and their running game is mostly just Josh Allen sneaking it. So with adding in the fact that Joe Hayden's not going to be in that secondary, I agree with Derek. I really like the matchup tonight for Josh Allen.
Yeah, and we even saw last week. I mean, we were saying that this was going to be one of Josh Allen's toughest matchups throughout the entire season, and he absolutely tore apart the San Francisco 49ers. And we started to see a turn for Josh Allen because throughout most of the year last year and also the first half of this year, we saw when John Brown was in the lineup, Josh Allen was good. When John Brown was out of the lineup, Josh Allen wasn't as good. But now we've seen the emergence of Cole Beasley as a true number 2 option on this team, and Gabriel Davis is filling in admirably as a number 3 option, and Josh Allen is his own option a lot of times. He's able to create yards wherever you go. So Josh Allen is someone that I am not hesitant about starting either.
I just wanted to fill into the Steelers defense. They've played the worst slate of quarterbacks I think I've ever seen. I mean, they got torched by Alex Smith last week, Garrett Gilbert, Jake Luton, Robert Griffin III. I mean, I think Josh Allen's just going to be a shock to their system for Pittsburgh tonight.
2 guys that you've probably played throughout your regular season, just as set it and forget it guys, have been Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson. Murray gets to travel east for an early game against the Giants defense, who shut down the Seattle Seahawks last week and have done such an admirable job at containing quarterbacks so far this year. And Deshaun Watson, now he's without Will Fuller, and he gets to go up against the Bears. Now, the last 2 weeks, we have seen the Bears be vulnerable to giving up points to the quarterback. Which of these 2 guys are you more confident in playing? So, Derek.
Deshaun, honestly. And now we just got the news that Brandon Cooks is out. So, I mean, that hurts him, I guess. But last week, we saw the Texans receivers for the first time have a duo each reach 100 yards, and it was Kiki Cutie and Chad Hansen. So it doesn't matter who's really out there for Deshaun Watson. I think Bill O'Brien was onto something trading DeAndre Hopkins. He doesn't necessarily need an elite receiver, but his return is killing their team. I mean, they have nothing around him, so he literally has to do everything. But as Ryan just said, I mean, I'm not really scared of the Bears. They aren't able to get to the quarterback right now. Khalil Mack just doesn't look like himself this year. Robert Quinn, same thing. He's seasoned at this point. So I think I think going into Chicago today, Houston knows they have to sling the rock around, especially without David Johnson in the backfield. They have a anemic run game to begin with. The only point of concern I have is the weather. It's, I think, 30 degrees, dome team in Houston, so I'm not sure their aerial attacks can adjust well to that, but they have to go through Deshaun Watson today to have a chance.
Yeah, and it looks like Cooks and Kuti are going to both be healthy, ready to go for the game. Hopefully that translates into fantasy production that we saw last week from Deshaun Watson. Tom, how about you?
I'm actually going to go with Kyler Murray here. I know that the Giants just locked down Russell Wilson, who is arguably the most skilled quarterback in the league. Only him and Patrick Mahomes are really the debate here. But I think that Kyler Murray does so much himself, and he has those weapons around him. You know, the Giants' defense is good. It's been playing well. They've been playing well for the past couple of weeks, but Kyler Murray is just different. He's got that rushing ability that Russell Wilson doesn't seem to want to use for some reason. I think that he's trying to protect himself a little bit, not try and be that guy we saw earlier in his career. Kyler Murray is going to be able to run the ball, and it's going to space out that Giants defense and make it so that DeAndre Hopkins and the like can go to work. So.
Yeah, we showed the DeAndre Hopkins route tree over the past couple weeks, and it seems to be a lot of the same exact route at the same exact depths. I know Derek was talking about how the Cliff Kingsbury offense has not turned into what a lot of people were expecting it to turn into, and even what it had looked like earlier this season. I mean, we saw a lot of different looks from Arizona earlier this year, and now they're playing against maybe the hottest team in the league with the Giants, especially on the defensive side of the ball, coming off of a couple just absolute shutdown games. What if I had to pick between the two? I'd probably pick Watson because of the fact that we have seen the Bears over the past 2 weeks give up big games to Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford. I mean, who saw did Stafford go over 400 in that game? 403.
That throw, that touchdown to Cephas in the second quarter was maybe the best throw of the year, and no one's talking about because he's Stafford on the lines. And I've said it a million times. I need to see this guy on a good team next year, please.
Well, you know what? Maybe without Matt Patricia, the good
just
team
blow it up.
Right, the good team that he can be on might be the Lions.
Yeah.
So long as they have faith in him, I've seen a lot of mock drafts having him take either Zach Wilson or Trey Lance, and I just think that's the biggest mistake the Lions can make in this offseason because Stafford is easily the most underrated quarterback in the league.
They just have not been able to build around him the way that they should have.
No, absolutely not.
All right, let's get into a little bit of this or that. So last week we had quarterbacks that we were talking about. This week I've got 3 different running back tandems that I want you guys to decide between. Guys that we don't think would necessarily be in the same tier on a regular basis, but this week because of matchups. So the first one is going to be Gio Bernard, who gets the Dallas Cowboys, against Kareem Hunt, who gets the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh man.
Yes, that's the reaction I'm looking for from this segment.
That's disgusting. So I really think I'm gonna go Gio here. Oh my god, I can't believe I just said that. I think I'm gonna go Gio here. I mean, look, Dallas allowed 3 rushers over 70 yards each last week against Baltimore. They just bleed yards and points against running backs. They can't stop a nosebleed. I mean, this is a horrible unit. I know it's Cincinnati, and do we know Brandon Allen's playing? I know he's game time decision with his chest injury. So
yeah, I think we're waiting another about 15 minutes for the actives and inactives. I haven't heard any definite word.
I'd feel better with Brandon Allen in there than Ryan Finley. I mean, Finley's awful. Allen's not much better. He has no competition back there. So we've seen Kareem Hunt kind of get phased out the past 2 weeks, and it's a bad matchup on Monday night against Baltimore, a desperate team in Baltimore. So I guess I'll go with Bernard in the guarantee volume.
Yeah. Gosh. I think if this were any other week that wasn't the first week of the playoffs, I would agree with you, Derek, but you got to stand by your studs here in week 1, and you got to hope that the PPR points are flowing for Kareem Hunt this week. I know it's a tough matchup. I know that it's, Dallas and all the stats you just listed off, but I just can't trust Giovanni Bernard. I've had him on my team for 3 or 4 weeks now, and it's just been depressing. I considered dropping him over Ty Johnson this morning to pick up a defense. Because
Sorry, so I'm just looking at right now, and Brandon Allen was upgraded to probable.
That helps. I mean, I think it helps. I think Allen will be susceptible to just dumping the ball off to Gio, so he gets some cheap PPR points. But the only saving grace I have for Kareem is he's kind of the goal-to-go guy. For some reason, they take Chubb out inside the 10 a lot for Kareem Hunt, which is good for him. But he also has been inefficient there. He hasn't played well the past 2-3 weeks. So I'll lean to Gio.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Hunt on this one, just to stick by the studs there. Why do you come up with these? Why do you want to hurt us?
Because it makes for great entertainment.
It hurts my soul to say that.
I love the headaches.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to go Gio. I think that, like Derek said, the guaranteed workload is something that I'm going to look for in when I'm choosing between these two. All right, next one that I have is Raheem Mostert versus Ronald Jones.
Ooh, interesting.
So we saw Raheem Mostert, who had been awfully productive over basically the last year and a half, and we're starting to see some chinks in the armor with how they're utilizing multiple running backs, and and first of all, how is Jeff Wilson getting as much utilization in this offense when they have Mostert, when they have McKinnon? Why Jeff Wilson?
I'm a biggest fan of Shanahan as anyone. I mean, he's so creative. He gives his team advantages all over the field on offense. But his game plan on Monday night was terrible. I mean, Deebo Samuel had 1 touch and 0 catches going into the fourth quarter. Raheem Mostert, as you said, he logged less snaps than Jeff Wilson last week. He had 2 more touches. He didn't. I don't think he got a carry after halftime. It was embarrassing. I get they were losing, but that's what got him there, running the football as well as they did. You're not going to win too many games leaning on Nick Mullins dropping back 40 times. So I hope Shanahan looks at that film and he realizes how much he botched that game up last week. But it's also Washington. I mean, that was a plus matchup on Monday night against Buffalo, and they didn't do anything. So I'm steering away from Mostert. I actually like Ronald Jones in a better matchup. Bucs are coming off the bye. Bruce Arians was talking a lot this week about how predictable they'd been, how bad they were on first and second down, and how long their third downs usually were. So to me, reading between the lines, I think that means Ronald Jones. I think that means easier throws for Tom Brady. So I actually think they're going to lean on Jones today.
Tom, how about you?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Derek here. I don't like him going up against that Washington defense who, if the Giants aren't the hottest defense in the league right now, it's Washington. So I really don't like that matchup
NFC
going in.
East, baby.
NFC East is
we lost
Derek.
Derek. All right.
Boy. But yeah, I'm gonna agree with him there. Ronald Jones to me was the easy answer to when you read that off.
Yeah, okay. I was hoping for a little more turmoil because I know how much you love your Raheem Mostert.
It sucks too because I play my brother every time he pops off. My brother loves him.
Yeah, so I'm also going to go Ronald Jones. So that's a clean sweep for us. And it's not what I was looking for. But
Look,
hopefully,
man, look. I've already been against both of you guys twice today. I can't go 3 in a row here.
all right. My final one is someone that it's from a question that one of my friends had posed to me this morning. PPR, Kenyon Drake versus JD McKissick.
PPR. Ooh.
McKissick. I mean, there's no Gibson today, and Drake has a bad matchup against the Giants. The Giants have been able to stifle opposing running backs. It's not like he's been the most efficient runner as it is. To me, Kenyon Drake is touchdown dependent as it gets. And J.D. McKissick had 10 catches last week without Antonio Gibson in the mix. Like he's a guarantee for 6 or 7 dump offs, and now he's going to actually get carries in the backfield with Payne Barber. So I think I'm leaning towards McKissick. I'm not thinking twice about it.
Yeah. Oh, that really hurts. Oh. I have so many investments in Kenyon Drake, and it's
so do I.
Oh,
I do too.
And yeah. I mean, if you're going Bernard for the volume, you got to go McKissick for the volume, and now you're adding PPR points. It's too enticing to pass up on him. Sorry, Kenyon. I'm still rooting for you though.
Yeah, I had told him.
Who would have thought we'd be here asking
that
question?
Yeah,
look, Kenyon Drake did because
Kenyon Drake preseason.
Well, Kenyon Drake called out people. He's like, if you don't want me on your fantasy team, trade me. I'm like, I'm trading for you, buddy. You're my champion. And then he goes out and now I'm saying play JD McKissick over him.
He's lost a lot of money this year.
Yeah.
And he's like 6th in rushing yards, which is in the league, which is pretty funny as it is. He still gets 20 plus carries every single week, but it's not pretty.
Yeah. It's not pretty. That's an understatement.
Yeah. I mean, there literally is not anything else that you can say. I mean, that is the definition of the I guess even the entire Arizona running game. It's
gross.
Outside of Kyler Murray.
Right.
Not anymore. Not anymore. Last 3 weeks, it's been nothing.
All right. One more segment before we get into our studs, and sleepers. Again, if you have any lineup questions, leave them in the comments below. We will answer them live on air. Buy or sell. This one really stood out to me. And it's because of the matchup with I guess you would assume the number 1 running back in the league has one of the toughest matchups, but you cannot sit Dalvin Cook. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what matchup he's going. He could be going against the 85 Bears. You're still playing Dalvin Cook. But his rushing total for today is set at 83.5.
Oh,
against Tampa Bay. We've seen the Tampa Bay run defense be one of the better units in the league. And over the past month and a half now, Kirk Cousins has been one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the league. How do we feel about 83.5 as the line for Dalvin Cook this week?
So is this rushing yards or total yards?
Rushing yards.
I'm going over. I mean, he had 32 carries last week. And I know it's the Jaguars, but we're at that time of the year. The Vikings have somehow snuck in as the 7 seed right now because of Arizona losing. So they have everything to play for. It's a huge game for them. They have a chance to get the tiebreaker over the Buccaneers for the wild card. So Mike Zimmer's not going to go away from Dalvin Cook. I wouldn't be surprised if he got another 30 carries today. And ever since Vita Vea's been down and out for the year a month ago, they haven't been as stout against the run. I think teams have just come in and said we're going to just throw the ball every single play, like the Chiefs and other teams before the bye with the Bucs. I don't expect the Vikings to be that drastic because of Dalvin Cook, but I think they might be a little more prone to throwing the football early, but that doesn't mean Dalvin Cook is going to be out of their game plan. I think that's an over for sure.
All right. So before we get into Tom and my answer, we do have a question, a lineup question. 2. Full PPR, Allen Robinson or A.J. Brown, J.D. McKissick or Melvin Gordon. So let's get into the running backs because we literally just started with a McKissick question. And we were talking about Melvin Gordon earlier on. I think Tom's about to have an aneurysm.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right, so J.D. McKissick or Melvin Gordon. We've got the tougher matchup is with McKissick, and we saw Gordon go off last week against Kansas City.
That one's pretty hard.
Both of these are really tough. These are really good lineup questions.
I think McKissick's safer in full PPR for sure. I think he has a really high floor in PPR formats today. But I mean, Ryan said it's a way tougher matchup. Carolina's run defense has not been good, and Melvin Gordon played well last week. I think we've seen him have those 20-plus games, 20-point-plus games. So, I mean, you have to look at your lineup. Do you need safety if it's an RB2 question? Do you need safety there? If you have a stud like a Derrick Henry, your RB1 spot, maybe you want a guy like Melvin Gordon who might hit a home run today against Carolina. So that's the stuff you got to juggle. But for me, McKissick safer, Gordon has higher upside.
So I'll go before while Tom recovers.
I kind of didn't help there either.
No, not at all.
Really answered it.
But I think you absolutely hit the nail on the head. It's all about how your roster is constructed. All right, so he actually said that. All right, so I have Chubb in my single RB spot, and he's not playing Jacobs. So
I would play Jacobs.
Josh Jacobs is healthy. They said that he's as close to 100% this week.
And they have Trent Brown back at left tackle. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Their offensive line is getting healthy. And
the Colts also haven't given up a 100-yard rusher in the past 2 years except to Derrick Henry. So,
yeah. To be honest, I think I would play Jacobs over McKissick, even a full PPR. If you're talking about the safety issue, I think Josh Jacobs is safer than J.D. McKissick.
They're in the same boat. They have to win. I mean, the Raiders have to win. So, I mean, they're going to play Jacobs.
Yeah, just don't run towards DeForest Buckner.
Yeah.
That guy. Just go the other way.
Yeah.
All right. So that takes away the stroke I was about to have because I would answer Josh Jacobs in a heartbeat. If you really, really, really didn't want to play Josh Jacobs for some reason, I would go Josh or J.D. McKissick, I guess. Even though that really, again, it pains me to say.
So the one thing Gordon can do that McKissick can't do is rush for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's just not going to be in J.D. McKissick's game. Melvin Gordon definitely has the higher ceiling. J.D. McKissick has a higher floor. Let's talk about the receivers. Full PPR, Allen Robinson, A.J. Brown. 2 tasty matchups. I'm leaning Robinson because of the fact that Mitchell Trubisky is still there and he funnels everything towards Allen Robinson. And there are many more options that the Titans can lean on rather than A.J. Brown. It can be a Derrick Henry rushes 40 times this week. It can be a Corey Davis getting the meaningful catches. It could be Ferkser there in the red zone. So while I love A.J. Brown, I think Allen Robinson is just with Trubisky is an absolute must start.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Derrick Henry was out of the game by the second quarter. He had 15 carries. His fumble kind of propelled the Browns to get too far ahead and take Henry completely out of the game. And I think Vrabel's looking at that, and they're going to just feed Derrick Henry all day long against this Jacksonville front. They have to win. They were in a tight game in week 2 the last time they played. I think it's going to be closer than people think. I think they're going to lean on Derrick Henry because they have the AFC South on the line. I mean, the Colts are playing the Raiders today. They both have the same win total. So this is a huge game for Tennessee. I think as we get closer to the postseason, it's going to be more and more Derrick Henry every week.
Yeah, I'm going to have to lean A-Rob solely for the PPR points, but I don't know. I like A.J. Brown. I think it could be a big day for him. I almost had him.
Just like I said,
I'm good with either. I think Robinson's safe. Yeah, I just say Robinson's
again, safety to ceiling.
Yeah.
All right, and he did. He also has one more. He said in another league, it's a half PPR, Rojo or Jacobs.
I'm struggling. Wow, you're struggling. Ooh. Look at all these great options you have, but you're the one struggling. I'm sitting over here debating Jamison Crowder or Melvin Gordon, but you're debating Rojo or Jacobs.
I'm going Jacobs.
I'm going Jacobs.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Jacobs is healthy enough for them to play, because they're confident in Booker, even though he didn't have a great game last week. They're confident in the Booker and Jalen Richard combination. So they were making sure that Josh Jacobs was healthy.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's out there and it looks like they're saying he's as healthy as he's been, I'm rolling Jacobs. All right, let's get back to this buy or sell before we get into studs, duds, and sleepers. Again, if you are tuning in, you have a lineup question, leave them in the comments below. We will answer them. So once again, we are looking at the over-under for Dalvin Cook at 83.5 against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, so I'm going to agree with Derek on this one. I'm going to go with the over on it. I think he's going to be a vital part of that offense regardless of matchup, and Zimmer's not going to want to shy away from him from what's been helping them get to the spot that they're at right now with the 7 seed.
All right, now this may make our Rojo or Jacobs take. Leonard Fournette is out today.
Oh,
coach's decision.
Coach's decision. What?
He's a scratch?
He's a healthy scratch. Also, Brandon Cooks is out. So how do we feel about Kiki Kuti?
Dynasty, baby.
That's my guy. I mean, he was my sleeper last week, and I just think he's that security blanket underneath in the slot. Who else are you going to throw to? It's him. It's the tight ends. It's Chad Hansen. It's
Also, Kenyon Drake is playing. DeAndre
Leonard
Swift
Fournette. Oh my god.
Yeah, Leonard. So fire up your Rojo.
Oh man. I mean,
so does this change your thoughts about Rojo versus Jacobs? Because it does to me.
It kind of does. Yeah.
But I would have them in the same tier. And now I'm looking at the matchups, and the matchup is just so much better for Rojo going against Minnesota.
And we see Bruce Arians just get so impatient, throwing Fournette when they're losing, and they're throwing the ball, and he's not even a pass catcher. But Ronald Jones has really struggled in the pass game. The only value he has is on early downs. But now without Fournette, it's him and Shady and Keyshawn Vaughn. I mean, it's gonna be all Rojo today.
All right. Wow. This is
Fournette's been such a huge disappointment this year. From what he looked like at LSU to now, it's night and day. He plays like he's 180 pounds. He tries to run around people, and that's not what he was at LSU.
No. All right. Once again, if you have lineup questions, leave them in the comments below. We will answer them live on air. But now it is time for us to get into our studs, duds, and sleepers. And as always, we will start off with our quarterback studs of the week. And Tom, why don't you lead us off?
My stud, Justin. He's already taken, and he's cracked at football, my guy. Justin Herbert is going to absolutely feast today. Feast today versus Atlanta. Atlanta's passing defense worst in the league. I think did they pass the Seahawks for most yards per game now? Do we know?
I don't think so, just because the Seahawks' first month was hilariously bad. So I still think they're bottom, but
all right. Well, then there's 31.
I was going to say, yeah, it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. They're just as bad as the Seahawks versus the Pats, or at least they're looking like the Seahawks in that first month. It's going to be a huge Justin Herbert day, and this is a guy who's QB9. I mean, there's no sitting him.
Derek, how about you?
Josh Allen. I mean, I mean, we had talked about him, but I think in your DFS lineups, you should be willing to pay up for him, because a lot of people on the surface are going to say, oh, he's going against Pittsburgh. They're going to shy away. I'm not. I mean, as we talked about, I think Josh Allen's going to be a shock to Pittsburgh's system on defense. They just haven't played good quarterbacks this year, and they are down so many vital guys. We talked about it, but Joe Hayden, Rob Spillane, who was filling in. Then you throw in Vince Williams, who is now on the COVID list as of Friday, so I don't even know who's playing middle linebacker for them today. Bud Dupree is not on the edge alongside TJ Watt, so I'm not as scared of that front four as I once was if I'm playing against them. So, look, I think Josh Allen is going to be money tonight. I really do. It's a bad matchup on the ground for Devin Singletary, which is going to give them more confidence in Josh Allen to sling the rock tonight.
My quarterback stud of the week is going to be Ryan Tannehill versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. There's just, I know we were talking earlier about how it could be a Derrick Henry 40 rush yard game, but Ryan Tannehill isn't going to need a whole lot of attempts to put up a ton of points against this Jacksonville defense, who is just playing third, fourth stringers up and down their lineup. He does have an array of weapons that he can throw the ball to. They're starting to get Derrick Henry more involved in the passing game. And they do. A.J. Brown, Corey Davis has become one of the more reliable fantasy wide receivers in the league. And Anthony Firkser has become a safety blanket. There isn't a lot that he's going to need to do, but and with the thing that I love about Ryan Tannehill as my stud quarterback of the week is the fact that the Tennessee Titans are going to be without their top three cornerbacks. So I think the Jaguars are going to be able to put up points because the Titans were bleeding points even when they were a healthy defense. So, I mean, go Mike Glennon. Mike Glennon's gonna put up those.
He keeps it close every week.
He does.
I mean, it's not
Minnesota.
Yeah, I was going to say that game last week was pretty hilarious from both teams. I mean, they were both doing everything in their powers to lose. But it's going to be close. Yeah, as you said, Ryan, divisional game. Jacksonville's kept it close against everybody. They always keep it close against Tennessee. So I think it's going to be a ton of points.
Yeah, so fire up your Ryan Tannehill. All right, running back studs. Tom, who you got?
For my stud running back, I got Aaron Jones versus Detroit. They're not that great of a defense, as we all know. You know, they played a little bit better since Matt Patricia has been removed from his seat as the head coach, but they're still not a good defense. They're missing a ton of parts, especially in their linebacking core and on their D-line. So Aaron Jones should be able to feast along with the rest of the Packers this week.
Yeah, I mean, that line's defense is just
atrocious. Yeah.
A sneaky play that I also like, and who I almost decided to put into one of my deep lineups is Jamal Williams.
Yeah,
because they, as great as Aaron Jones is, they never forget about Jamal Williams, and he right, but he gets 8 to 10 carries a week, but he's always in that 50 to 70 yard range. Even
he always gets 3 or 4 catches. They're going to be winning by a couple scores at some point, and it's going to be Jamal Williams.
He may be the garbage time back this week, so he may be somebody to look at in DFS in a tournament play as a cheap option. Derek, who you got?
I'm going with James Conner. I'm not a huge fan of James Conner and the Steelers' rushing attack. They really struggled last week. They were exposed, to be honest, and I think Randy Fishner, their offensive coordinator, is trying to alleviate that with a lot of quick passes at the line of scrimmage. Ben Roethlisberger had 51 attempts against Washington last week. That's not going to get it done. They can't keep doing that. Roethlisberger can't even move in the pocket anymore. It's just not a sustainable formula. They get Marquise Pouncey back, which is going to be huge for this offensive line. They're just not getting any movement, and they get a plus matchup. They go from that Washington front to Buffalo. I mean, that's something that they can manipulate and take advantage of. So I think they're going to lean on that ground game a little more than they have been. So I actually feel pretty good about firing up James Conner today.
My running back stud of the week is going to be the guy who is the number 6 running back in half-point PPR scoring since he took over as starter in Week 7, and that is going to be the hometown boy, Bruce Wayne Gallman. I mean, there's nothing you can say about it. He scores every week, and then finally last week he doesn't score and puts up over 130 total yards. Outside of the elite of the elite running backs, there hasn't been over the last half of the season anyone as consistent in terms of production as Wayne Gallman. Now he gets to go up against the Arizona rush defense, who on the season is 21st. Over the last 3 games, they're 23rd, giving up over 130 rushing yards a game. Alfred Morris has been a nice addition, but he's just a change of pace when Gallman needs a blow. And I mean, look at the 2 touchdowns that Morris scored last week. Both of them were after huge plays by Gallman. They needed to give him a breather, and Morris comes in and vultures the 2 touchdowns. Last week could have been such an enormous week for Gallman had it not been for those 2 vulture touchdowns. I love the matchup this week. So
I'm surprised, Ryan, you didn't have him in your this or that segment. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of waiting for it.
Yeah, but to me, it would have been Wayne Gallman or Dalvin Cook, and it would have been tough for me. Wide receiver studs of the week. Tom, who you got?
I'm going back to a guy that I've called out as my stud for a couple of different times now. I'm going with Robbie Anderson on the Carolina Panthers, coming off a bye to play Denver. I don't know what it is, but Robbie Anderson seems to have this knack for the ball. And with DJ Moore out, placed on the COVID list, he's going to see even more targets than he's already seeing. And like I've mentioned a couple of times here, his season low for targets was 5. He is involved in this passing game. He had 7 last week, or before his bye, and he had 9 before that. He's seen as high as 13, and that was when they played Kansas City. Denver's not going to put up a ton of points unless the defense is playing as poorly as they've played in the past couple of games. But Robbie Anderson's going to see these targets. He's a guy that can go deep downfield. He can run the short routes. He's going to be involved when Mike Davis just isn't going to be getting it done. So I like him for.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but AJ Boye, he's suspended for the rest of the year, their first corner. So it's Michael Ojemudia and Devontae Bosby. So it's not even like it's a tough matchup for Robbie today.
I credit you for getting the names right, because I would never have gotten them right, and that's why I tried to avoid saying that. There's just no reason that Robbie Anderson is not going to feast today. I've got him in my fantasy lineups. I got him in my daily fantasy lineups. He's going to be a PPR monster.
Derek, how about you?
I will piggyback off Tom and just go with Keenan Allen to finish off that stack with Herbert. But yeah, I mean, Tom said it all. And this Atlanta rush defense has surprisingly been really good. They're third in points allowed against running backs, and they've been revitalized with Raheem Morris. I still think they obviously have a lot of flaws in that secondary that LA is going to try to expose today. Keenan Allen had a tough week last week, but I mean, they lost 45-0. Who didn't? The week before that against the Jets, he saw 16 catches. So I think it's going to be something closer to that than what we saw last week. Fire up Keenan Allen.
I'm going to go with Adam Thielen against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people still have this notion in their head that Tampa Bay is a really good complete defense, and that's just not true, especially on the passing end. Again, they're going to be without Jamel Dean this week, so we're going to see slot corners be forced to go outside and having to deal with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen. I could have gone with either one of them, but we wax so much about Justin Jefferson on this show that I think it's time that we give Thielen a little bit of love. In 6 of the 12 games that 6 of the 11 games that he's played this year, because he did miss one of the games, he has had more than 18 points in a half-point scoring. I mean, if you're looking for an explosive play, and they're going against Tampa Bay, who's going to be able to put up points against the Minnesota defense, Cousins is going to have to throw the ball. It's not going to be one of those games where you rely on Dalvin Cook to rush you to the victory. They're going to have to throw the ball, and I just really like Adam Thielen this week. All right, tight end studs of the week. Here we go.
Our favorites.
Tom, what do you got?
I'm going with my guy. I've been ridiculed for having him as a sleeper, so I've now elevated him to my stud, and it's a guy with a terrible matchup this week, TJ Hawkinson. He's not going to be phased out of this offense. He has now had 2 games in a row with 80 or more yards on 8 targets and 9 targets. And on those 17 targets, he has only dropped or hasn't caught. Oh, God, quick maths in my head hurts. He's catching around 80%, right? This is a guy that Stafford's going to be looking for. We've already said that Green Bay is going to take an early lead. I think this is going to be a huge DeAndre Swift game. I didn't get to put him in because I wasn't sure if he was going to play, but he would have been my running back sleeper had he had his injury designation lifted earlier. But this is going to be a big day for Swift early on until Green Bay takes off. Then it's going to go all to TJ Hawkinson. I'm not sure, is Kenny Golladay back or is he still out?
Golladay is still out.
All right. So then that means he's the number 1 target, which has been shown with the 17 targets he's gotten over the past 2 weeks. And he's gonna be a vital part of this offense once they get down late. So I'm going Hawk, even though he's playing one of the best defenses against the tight end in the league.
He was a solid option when Golladay was there. He's become a must-start option since the absence of Golladay.
Yeah, and I think without Patricia, Patricia held him back too.
Yeah,
and
well, he held the entire offense back.
Yeah,
Adrian Peterson. Yeah. Adrian Peterson was good under Matt Patricia.
But I mean, he wasn't even seeing that many snaps. He's seeing 60 and 70% of the snaps, and I mean, I think he's, besides Swift and when Galladay's there, I mean, he's such a good weapon at tight end that they were holding back. And last week he took off. He had 84 yards, eight catches, and he's gotten in the end zone a lot this year. I'm on board with you, Tom.
All right, Derek, who you got?
I'll go with Dalton Schultz. Doesn't really fit the stud profile, but I mean, look, I put Gesicki as a sleeper last week, and Cincinnati has just been horrible against tight ends this year. And I think that's something that Kellen Moore is going to try to exploit today. So I actually feel pretty good about firing up Dalton Schultz. The only cause for concern I have each week with this Dallas offense in terms of fantasy points is can the opposing team pressure Andy Dalton, because he's not a very mobile quarterback that can extend the play. Cincinnati can't. So sneak preview alert. I like Andy Dalton today. Sleeper alert. But I think he's on par for a 300-yard game, and I think that's going to be good for Dalton Schultz. I think that's a matchup that eventually gets exploited in this game, and he might fall into the end zone. So I like Dalton Schultz today.
Derek, I'm disappointed. You didn't say the magic words.
What?
Revenge game for Andy Dalton.
Tom, I'm saving the content for the sleeper preview. Come on.
You gotta say it for it to come true. It's gotta be as soon as you mention the name revenge game.
Saving it for Dalton.
I was saving it.
If you mention Andy Dalton's name before you get to Andy Dalton, you still have to say it. It doesn't work if you say his name first.
Fair.
You know the magic.
It's gonna be a great game for the number 3 pick of the draft on what is that, 1 o'clock between Dallas and Cincinnati, basically for the 3rd pick. So that's going to be a fun one.
All right. So my stud of the week is going to be Tom's dud of the week last week, who only went off for 9 catches for 98 yards. Was it 1 or 2 touchdowns? Logan Thomas. It was a bad matchup last week. It's a bad matchup this week. I don't think it matters. He's become a reliable option for Alex Smith, and we've seen tight ends in the past with Alex Smith on other teams have enormous success. Namely, Travis Kelce before Mahomes, and also Vernon Davis in San Francisco. Tight ends have been a big part of Alex Smith's offense. And now and they even utilize him in the Wildcat. So he's a converted quarterback. He was a quarterback at Virginia Tech in college. Imagine that body as a quarterback.
He's put on some weight. He was like 240 still at Virginia Tech. I mean, he's a load.
That's like Cam Newton's size.
Yeah, I mean, he's a big boy.
So and I think we're starting to see teams focus on taking away Terry McLaurin. They know that he's the number 1 passing option, which is starting to leave these openings for McKissick and for Logan Thomas to have success in the lineup. So
Cam Sims is ridiculous. I mean,
Cam Sims is amazing. They need more targets for him, bro.
His highest receiving total at Alabama was like 14 in a season. He just didn't even play at Alabama, which just speaks to how ridiculous they are at the receiving position. But
he's such a disrespected player.
He's really good.
All right, we have a
oh my God.
Question. Can you rank these for today in a PPR? Duke Johnson, who once again goes back to being the only dog in town, with David Johnson going on the COVID list. Raheem Mostert, Ty Johnson, Josh Jacobs, Peyton Barber, Wayne Gallman.
Oh my God! Hang on, give me a second. I'm writing these all down.
All right, so Wayne Gallman's number 1.
Yes, Josh Jacobs.
Is number 2.
Yeah.
I think I'd go Mostert 3.
I went Duke.
I hate the matchup.
And he's so uninspiring when he runs the football. He's just not good anymore. He used to be a little jolt of energy, but he's not even that anymore. I don't feel comfortable starting him today. I would go Mostert 3. I'd even put Ty Johnson ahead of Duke, personally.
Oh, I was actually deciding between Ty Johnson and Mostert at number 3.
Yeah.
I guess. Wait. So I'm actually going to go Gallman, Jacobs, Mostert, Johnson, Ty Johnson, Peyton Barber, Duke Johnson, and then Peyton Barber.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would rank them too.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why, but I read it as David Johnson and then connected him to the Cardinals. So I was thinking that Dave Johnson was going up against the Giants. I don't know why. I'm having a great morning. Can you guys tell? I got thrown off by the two questions that almost gave me a stroke, but I'm back now.
That was a fun little exercise.
I agree with you guys.
All right. Next question. T.Y. Hilton or Hollywood Brown? That's easy for me. It's Hilton.
T.Y. Yeah,
Hilton.
T.Y.
Yep.
Don't start Hollywood this year. Just put him away.
I cut him. I cut him in every league, and I took him in the fourth round.
He's had 2 catches that have salvaged what otherwise would have been bad games over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean Lamar threw for 100 yards last week against Dallas. So no.
Cardinals defense or 49ers defense? So we got the Cardinals traveling east to take on the Giants, and the 49ers against the Washington football team that is at home in Arizona.
I'm going 49ers here.
Yeah.
To me, it's the offensive line. I think the points, I think between the Giants and the football team can be very similar. So I'm going to look at the opportunity for sacks and turnovers. And Daniel Jones over his last 3 games was not getting sacked, was not turning the ball over. And the Washington offensive line still gives up a ton of sacks. And Alex Smith just isn't.
Yeah, I mean, Wayne Gallman.
The 49ers are just a better defense.
I was going to say Wayne Gallman is going to run well today. He's been efficient out of the backfield, so you're going to lose points in terms of yardage in the ground game. Daniel Jones, I get he has the hamstring, but he can run too. So I get a little scared there. And, yeah, I mean, no Antonio Gibson, so it's not going to be a real running attack, a normal running attack out of Washington today. So I would go with the 49ers.
Yeah, they're just a better defense.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was a bad week last week. It's a nice bounce back opportunity for that defense. Yep.
I'd also throw in the fact that the 49ers are better coached than the Cardinals defense. And I'd also throw in that Daniel Jones has progressed as a passer throughout the season.
Absolutely. All right. Let us continue with our tight end studs, and it's up to me now, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Oh no! I did. I gave my Logan Thomas.
Oh yeah, right.
yeah. You need to disrespect me like that. Yeah, I got it.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So now let's. Here we go. One more question. Second league: Matt Stafford or Matt Ryan, Devontae Parker or CeeDee Lamb,
Jesus,
Gurley, Edwards or Pollard. Currently have Goddard and Gronk at tight end and flex in a half PPR.
Oh, God.
All
right, I'm okay. So I'm just gonna go through these one by one.
Yeah.
I'm going with Matt Ryan solely. I understand that I was just hyping up Hawk, and it's gonna be Swift into Hawk.
No Julio.
I know it's no Julio.
Julio's out. Matt Ryan is just not good.
It's sad.
All right. Fine. You persuaded
the Bell's
me.
opening up this offense. It was a breath of fresh air last week. I mean, he's not going to throw for 400 today, but they're gonna have to throw the ball. It's a plus matchup against LA, but it's what Ryan said. Matt Ryan in his plus matchups doesn't do well to begin with, and he doesn't have Julio, so I don't feel comfortable putting in Matt Ryan.
But the thing about the Chargers defense is once they traded away Desmond King out of that slot, their secondary has fallen apart.
No, it's not a good defense, but he's still going against Joey Bosa in that front. So I mean, he's going to see
get hurried.
He's going to see pressure. Caleb McGarry's not playing their right tackle, so that doesn't help either. And no Julio is. I mean, I think it hurts Calvin Ridley to begin with. I
don't want to
I definitely think it hurts Matt Ryan.
I don't necessarily think it hurts Ridley as much as I actually think that it hurts someone like a Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst tends to play much better when
As
Julio
that third or
was there.
fourth guy. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
All right, so yeah, I'm leaning Stafford. Okay, then Devontae Parker or CeeDee Lamb.
I was just going to get to my QB dud, so this one I think a little easier for me than it is for you guys.
I don't like Devontae
Yes,
Parker
I'm
today,
going.
but I'm going
I don't.
with Devontae Parker. Who else do you throw to? I mean, it's him and Gesicki, and they're playing against Kansas City without any running backs. It's Patrick Laird and Matt Breida. So I think they have to lean on Tua a little more today than they would like. So I think it's another game where Devontae Parker just sees a lot of targets.
Number one wide receivers do not put up points against the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And then on top of that, Tua Tagovailoa is not an elite quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I don't like the question.
Again, not like Andy Dalton is an elite quarterback, but see the offense is just flowing so much better than the Dolphins is right now. We were talking about on Wednesday how we thought that as much as we love what the Dolphins had been doing this year, the better chance for the Dolphins to win is with Ryan Fitzpatrick at quarterback. I'm leaning CeeDee Lamb.
I'm going CeeDee, and I'll get into more why I don't like Devontae Parker in a hot minute here.
All right, Gurley, Gus Edwards, Tony Pollard. All right, so I'm eliminating Pollard.
Yeah.
First because the matchup is good, but he's still, and we saw Zeke finally look like the Zeke of old a little bit last week. Little bit, and that was against the Ravens. He against the Ravens. Now,
Pollard has been more efficient, but Zeke is getting paid $90 million guaranteed, so he will continue to get those touches.
And also, if I'm playing CeeDee Lamb, there's no way in hell I'm playing Lamb and Pollard in the same.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Yeah.
So it's going to be between Gus Edwards and Todd Gurley. And as much as it should be Gurley, there's just no way you can trust him. And Gus Edwards, the way he looked last week is what we were hoping to see the week before when he was a stud of ours. But again, that was against Pittsburgh. Now, the way that he looked against Dallas, it looked like every single time he touched the ball, he was going to run the ball for 20 yards. And I think that he's actually probably guaranteed more touches than Gurley.
Yeah.
As crazy as that may sound.
It doesn't, because, Gurley's coming off the injury. We don't really know his usage, and they don't owe anything to Gurley. He's a free agent at the end of the year. The Falcons aren't fighting for a playoff spot or anything at this point. I think they're going to – and we saw last week, Ito Smith got a lot of work. And Brian Hill, he hasn't necessarily salvaged his opportunity as well as I thought he would, but I don't feel comfortable playing Gurley off the injury. It's not like he was ripping it up before. He was just touchdown dependent. So I lean towards Gus because it's actually a prone rushing attack at this point. They actually are running the ball well.
Yeah, what has this show been today? Now we're putting Gus Edwards over Gurley. What has this been?
Yeah.
Welcome to 2020, man. Welcome to the playoffs. Welcome to the.
And it's not even like it's a split. Like we all agreed.
Yeah. So he says that he has Goddard and Gronk at TE and flex.
I don't like that.
So if you have, which do you have higher, Gronk or Goddard? Gronk.
Yeah, no.
Jalen Hurts.
No,
I was gonna say Jalen Hurts. Ertz is back. He had some work last week. Goddard was still good, but yeah, it's Jalen Hurts' first start against the number one opposing defense against tight ends. Ever since they gave up that huge Monday night game to Darren Waller in week 2, they bottled up tight ends. So I don't even feel good about Dallas Goedert, and Gronk is the fourth option on the Bucs. So he's
he is the red zone option.
I was going to say,
especially with Mike Evans. I know they said that he was a full participant, but Mike Evans has not been healthy in 4 years.
Yeah, so I mean, Gronk has saved some weeks with touchdowns the past month. Yeah. So I feel better about Gronk, but I definitely don't feel confident putting 2 tight ends in, and not those two.
So I would actually have Gronk over Goddard, and I would probably play Devontae Parker in my flex over Goddard.
Yeah.
I would do that, but stream a tight end if possible. That would be my advice, because I don't like either of them.
If Cole Kmet is on your waiver wire, I'd probably start Cole Kmet over either Dallas Goedert or Gronk right now.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for the question. And now we will get into our quarterback duds of the week. And Tom, why don't you lead us off with what is probably the worst secret we have had on the show today?
I got Tua as my dud because we just talked about him, of course. I don't like him versus this Kansas City defense. We were just talking about how Devontae Parker is going to be basically neutralized by these the corners of Kansas City. But I'm more afraid for Tua throwing picks and getting hit, because that Dolphins offensive line, while it's a nice young core, they're young. So they're going to make mistakes versus this defensive line that has just been able to some weeks just walk right into that backfield to get pressure on the quarterback. So I'm more worried about fumbles, sacks, and interceptions on bad throws than anything else with Tua. And like Ryan said before, they have a better chance to win with Ryan Fitzpatrick. They're going to bench him. We've seen it before. We've seen it versus, oh God, I forget the games that it was, but we've seen it at least twice before. Where
Denver game,
was that?
I
think it was Denver too.
Yeah,
I think it was Denver because he played 68% of the snaps. So we've seen it before. I really just don't like Tua this week at all, and I think he's the most avoidable quarterback in the NFL this week.
Yeah, I mean, no one plays more cover zero in Kansas City. They play it on like 10% of snaps. Spagnuolo is gonna.
I want to hear about cover zero.
I mean, oh God. I mean, too soon. My bad. You guys should be building Williams a statue when this is all done. I mean,
did you not see the picture I sent in our group chat before the show? I loved it. It was
kept
perfect.
the hope alive. So I mean, good for him. Good for
he sacrificed his job.
I was gonna say, yeah, he is a sacrifice for Trevor Lawrence. So
sacrificial lamb, baby.
And I mean, Spagnuolo is going back to Tua. He's gonna devise a game plan that's just going to be chaos for Tua today. So it's going to be a lot of blitzing. It's going to be a lot of pressure. I think it's going to be ugly for Miami's offense without a rushing attack. So
he had the injury 2 weeks ago that kept him out of the game versus the Jets, and then we saw last week. Yeah, he played 100% of the snaps, but he hit 15 points. Yeah, there it is. What a defense.
So I saw a stat. The Jets became the first team to meet all these qualifications. 6+ pass rushers, under 40 seconds to go, winning between 4 and 8 points. There were 251 plays that had met those qualifications since 2006, since they started recording these stats. 251. And the Jets rewrote history. They literally rewrote history and ran an all-out 8-man pressure cover zero blitz to lose the game. That was something. I mean, that was
with an undrafted corner.
4.58 40 on the only situation, the only play that can hurt you there is a touchdown against Henry Ruggs, who doesn't exactly have the most elaborate route tree at this time. He's kind of just there to run straight at this point. And
what did he do?
Ran straight.
He ran straight.
We were saying on the Zero Tech podcast on Wednesday that the Jets would have had a better chance putting Lamar Jackson, the quarterback.
Yeah, I said the same thing.
The poor kid. I mean, he bid on that double move too, which was just like, I mean,
he planned
have a little bit of awareness, but also I mean, Greg Williams obviously dropped the ball there. But wow, just like
why wasn't Marcus May
of
on
the
him,
Jets
man?
right now. That was
God.
on like micro and macro level. It was awesome.
Why like I would have much rather had Marcus May there, and he's not a corner. Like the guy would have at least made a play.
We've spent way too much time on the Jets.
I know.
There's just no reason.
I got Ty Johnson coming up.
I got Ty Johnson too. I mean,
yeah. All right.
Anyway,
continuing with quarterback duds. Derek, who you got?
Let's get a little spicy. I mean, we were getting pretty aggressive with our duds last week, and it paid off. I'm going with Kyler Murray. We talked about him, but I don't feel confident playing Kyler Murray today. His rushing game has disappeared the last 3 weeks. I think he's playing hurt. He got hurt in that Thursday night game against Seattle 3 weeks ago, and he's averaged 16 rushing yards a game since. I mean, he's disappeared. And we saw Patrick Graham completely neutralize Russell Wilson with Amoeba fronts, spies, double spies. I mean, he's as clever as it gets when it comes to devising a clever game plan on the defensive side of the football. So I really don't feel confident playing Kyler Murray. And the Giants have been red hot on defense, as we talked about. I mean, they've kept them in literally every single game this year except for San Fran. Even when their offense wasn't going, their defense has been a nice constant on that team, and now the offense has been playing well. So I really don't like Kyler Murray today.
So one thing that I'm not going to be doing today is sending in the car. Derek Carr is going to be my quarterback dud of the week. Again, sorry, Tom, but he is coming off one of his best games in the NFL, and some of it thanks to that final play of the game. But now he gets to go up against Indianapolis. DeForest Buckner, I'm just afraid that he's going to hammer Derek Carr. The interior of the Raiders' offensive line has not been good. They haven't been healthy. They need to establish the outside zone in this running attack. They need to get outside of the tackles. Like I said, this is just not a very good matchup for Derek Carr. Although, I mean, again, it's tough to go against some. I think Indy gave up 300 yards through the air last week.
But it's Deshaun Watson.
Deshaun Watson, who
it's different. Yeah. He got sacked 5 times. He could have been sacked 10 or 12, but he's so good at escaping. Derek Carr can't do that.
Right. So that is why I'm going to have Derek Carr as my quarterback dud of the week. All right. We've got another question from a viewer. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon for us here on the East Coast. Half PPR, AJ Brown, Tyler Lockett, or Corey Davis?
That's a good question.
Wow. This would have been
half point.
I think it's a question of what do you need. So I think Corey Davis has somehow become the safest guy. I mean, he's logged seven targets in every single game but one, and he dominated last week. It's a great matchup, obviously. I mean, him and A.J. Brown are teammates, but I think Brown's the boom guy there. I think Corey Davis is safe. Lockett, though, gets the Jets. But Seattle doesn't look right. I mean, they become a lot more conservative.
It doesn't matter. They're playing the Jets.
I know. It's a perfect get right game. So I think if you want safe, you go Corey Davis or Lockett, even though it hasn't been great as the Jets. If you want the boom guy, it's A.J. Brown. That's where I'm at.
I was going to go, well, the other thing we have to consider is it going to be a Lockett day or a Metcalf day?
I know. I mean, that's
it's always been one or the other. It's very rarely been both. This could be a day where it could be both. Like, don't get me wrong. It's the Jets. No, it's the Jets. It could be both. I'm totally fine with it being both because that means we're one loss closer
Seahawks
to
can't
Trevor
keep playing the way they did last week, which is running the ball, taking the football out of Russell Wilson's hands as much as they have in the past 3 weeks. I mean, they need to go back to something closer to what they were in the beginning of the year. Maybe not letting Russ cook as they were the first month, just throwing the football around 50 times a game, but it can't be what it has been the past 3 weeks. That's not what they should be.
I don't know why they can't let him go back to doing that, because when he was doing that, he was playing at an MVP level. Everyone said he was going to be the MVP, and then they started playing the way he's been playing, and now he's completely fallen off the edge of the earth. So I'm gonna go Lockett here. I don't really have a problem with any of these guys because they're all solid options. But with the half-point PPR, I'm gonna go Lockett. If it were standard, I'd go Brown.
Yeah. I'd probably have it Lockett, Davis, Brown. But if, again, this will be somewhere where if you think you're going to need a 20-point game out of this spot in your lineup, then I'd probably lean towards Brown because he's going to be the home run hitter of this grouping.
He could go out and get 2 touchdowns, or he could get held 50 yards.
Ooh!
All right.
Good morning.
With
Akers.
With Gibson out, Akers on my bench. No. And Gaskin with COVID. I need a flex in a standard league. Pick one: DeAndre Washington, Phillip Lindsay, Jeff Wilson Jr., Michael Pittman Jr., Laviska Shenault, or Russell Gage.
All right, get DeAndre Washington, Russell Gage out. We're not even going to talk about them.
I don't even want to. I don't want to talk about Phillip Lindsay either because
with Gordon looking as good as he had, as good as he did last week. He's just going to be the safer one in terms of.
He's also the one with the bigger contract, so they're going to want to utilize him a little bit more, and they're starting to as the season has gone on.
Yeah, so this is between Jeff Wilson Jr., Michael Pittman Jr., or Laviska Shenault.
Yep,
Shenault has the best matchup, but he's also coming off an injury, so we haven't really seen how much Mike Lennon will target him. So I don't feel great about Shenault, even though it's a great matchup.
I agree.
Michael Pittman's been up and down too, but that's also a great matchup. I mean, Sam Darnold torched that Raiders secondary last week, so I think I'm going with Pittman, even though it's standard. I don't love that pick, but it's not like Jeff Wilson's going to get 20 carries today, and it's Washington. That's a bad matchup. So I think I feel pretty good about playing Pittman in that slate.
Yeah, my debate was between Pittman and Shenault, but I remember what you said, and I remember he came off an injury. We don't know how he's going to play with Mike Glennon, so I was going to lean Pittman regardless. I didn't like Wilson.
3 for 3. I also like Pittman.
Pro Pittman podcast for sure. we like Pittman.
We definitely like our Michael Pittman Jr. here. Thank you for your question. And Akers on the bench.
Yeah.
All right. What is
who?
This?
What?
I hope this is not a choice between a flex, because it's Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin, or Nick Chubb. And the answer is easy. It's Nick Chubb.
Yeah,
it's Nick Chubb.
As good as Deontay has been.
Had like 6 drops the past few games.
The drops scare me because there are other options they can go to. Godwin is coming off the injury. And again, there are so many options there in Tampa Bay. Nick Chubb is the offense right now in Cleveland.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So now we will get back into our duds of the week. We just finished quarterbacks, so now let's get into our running back duds of the week. And Tom, who you got?
This is a multi-time dud candidate for me. The Buffalo running backs as a whole. Just looking at even just Devin Singletary, he's had 2 of the best weeks that he's had fantasy-wise with Zach Moss in the lineup. Obviously, he had the 2 weeks where he went off for 14 and 17 in weeks 3 and 4 with Zach Moss out when he was the number one. But with Zach Moss in the lineup, he has hit 9 points 3 different times, and 2 of them came the last 2 weeks. But this is 9 points we're talking about. You know, he finally broke over 50 yards in consecutive weeks. He's not this is not a room that we can trust. You know, Singletary's supposed to be the number one. Zach Moss has been getting the inside the 20 as the receiving and somehow bruiser. I don't understand what his role is, because Zach Moss seems to do a little bit of everything, and then they just give Devin Singletary the ball because he was a high draft pick. I don't know. I don't think that this is a safe running back room, especially versus Pittsburgh's defense. And I know they're missing Spillane and Dupree out of those linebackers that make them a superstar run defense, but you still got to deal with TJ Watt and the like of the defensive line. So there's no way I am playing any Buffalo running back, and maybe even the rest of the season, just due to the inconsistency issues.
Yeah, Josh Allen is the best running back on that team.
It's not like Washington was killing them on the ground. J.D. McKissic was hurting them through the air. And I don't think Singletary or Moss really have that skill set to exploit that like a J.D. McKissic. So I think they're just going to sling the ball around tonight.
Derek, who you got?
Circling back to Miles Sanders, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he got 20 points today with Jalen Hurts in the lineup. But it's not a good matchup. They're number one against opposing running backs, New Orleans Saints. So even if he does get that volume, I'm not necessarily sure if he's going to be a home run hit as he has been when we've seen him get that work. But Doug Pierce has been really impatient. He had 6 carries last week against Green Bay. I mean, it was pathetic. So I wouldn't be surprised if he saw work. If you have to play him, play him. But in DFS lineups, I'm not taking that leap of faith and trusting Doug Peterson to give him the ball a lot today. So I'm steering away from Miles Sanders.
I agree. I benched him for Cam Akers
too. I benched
him.
Me. All right, so I have Raheem Mostert as my RB dud of the week. We've already gotten into a little bit of why we don't like Mostert this week as opposed to others. Washington on the season is 10th in terms of rushing yards allowed per game, but over the last 3, they are number 1. They've only given up 50 yards a game over the last 3, including only 21 to Pittsburgh last week. If Raheem Mostert was the only guy in town for San Francisco, I'd be a lot more confident in playing him. But again, like I said, they just use too many running backs too often in order for me to feel confident about playing Raheem Mostert against this Washington front 7.
Definitely.
All right, so wide receiver duds of the week. Tom, who you got?
I'm going Tyler Boyd. I know he got ejected last week, even though he got.
That was the soft. Those were
the softest ejections.
Refs have been really bad this year.
I was gonna get. I didn't even know how to bring up how dumb that ejection was, but he still scored 14 last week because he had the long touchdown. I don't like it this week versus Dallas, because even though Brandon Allen's going to be playing quarterback or whatever, I don't see another big game like that. Even though he only played the 44% of snaps with the ejection, I don't really see him as a true number 1 guy, which is where he's projected for this week. Because in my leagues, I see him projected for 14 or 15, which puts him in that wide receiver 1 range. I don't see him hitting that even with T. Higgins out. I don't know what his status is. I think he was questionable last time I looked. I don't trust the quarterbacking play of this team, and we'll see a lot of Giovanni Bernard if they're going to move the ball in the air.
So, shocker from, again, questions that we've received on this show so far, and we're going to get into with the tight ends. My wide receiver dud of the week is Devontae Parker. Wide receiver ones just do not score against the Kansas City Chiefs. I am not a believer in Tua yet, and I don't think that he has what it takes right now to take this team on his back and pass them to a victory against Kansas City. Now, are they going to be? I think there's a good chance that they're down, but this is a pretty good Miami defense, so they may be able to keep this within range. I don't think it's going to be one of those games where Tua's going to put up 30 to 40 passing attempts, which I think he's going to need in order to give Devontae Parker the volume that he needs to be successful against Kansas City. So I am going to fade Devontae Parker when I can. Obviously, it's going to be tough. A lot of people have been relying on Devontae Parker throughout the whole year, but I think there are going to be other options that you can lean on this week. All right, tight end duds of the week. Tom, who you got?
Did Derek do wideout? I don't think Derek did.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just skipped right over.
It's okay. I was gonna do Cooks, but we learned this morning he's out. But another guy who
I'm really down on him.
Yeah, another. he's a guaranteed dud. I can guarantee. Another guy who I think fits that mold as filling in at the number one receiver spot when he's really not is Marvin Jones in Detroit. He had a great week last week, but Matt Stafford's not throwing for 400 yards today. Green Bay's pass rush and pass defense has actually been pretty solid, with the Smith brothers coming alive on the edge. And look, he's playing Jair Alexander. He's taken away virtually every number one receiver that he plays week in, week out. And Marvin Jones doesn't really have the juice to get after Jair Alexander, put up another 100-yard game like last week. I don't expect that. I see Cephas getting involved in the wide receiving core. And as we talked about with Tom, I think it's going to be a big hawk day, a big swift day on the ground. So, I'm fading Marvin Jones.
All right. So now we can get into our tight end duds of the week. Tom, who you got?
I think this is the easiest section on any show we've ever had because you can literally say all of them and you'd kind of be right. But if I had to choose one specific one, I'm going to go with Evan Engram this week versus the Cardinals. Cardinals haven't given up a ton of points to tight ends, but they haven't not given up a ton of points to tight ends. So I don't know Danny Dimes coming off the injury, how involved Evan Engram's going to be. I really like the involvement that he's been getting the past couple of weeks, getting 8 and 9 targets the previous 2 weeks, even with Daniel Jones out. I think the coaching's been really good about getting him involved because he is one of their best playmakers with Saquon out. I think that they're going to hone in on taking Ingram out of the game, and he's going to see guys like Isaiah Simmons or Budda Baker on him a lot. I just don't like his prospects for the week.
And it's, obviously last week we saw Colt McCoy, but the week before when in the game that Daniel Jones had gone down, we saw Evan Engram really. He was
phenomenal.
Over 100 yards.
He had 6 catches on 9 targets for 129.
Since the deadline, when a lot of people thought they were going to trade him, Gettleman held strong, said we're not trading him, and he's been great since that point.
Yeah, he's only had a couple of games where he's posted duds, like that week 10 versus Philly, where he got 2 catches on 3 targets for 15 yards.
That wasn't the drop game, was it? Or was that
No.
was when the Giants won? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So he's had, since the trade deadline was week 8, correct? Is that the
yes.
Okay, so yeah. Since then, he's posted 15 fantasy points, 3.5 fantasy points, a bye week, 15 points, and 7 points. So he's been getting more involved than what we've seen him in at the beginning of the season. I think that the Cardinals are going to see that and say that, okay, he's their number one passing option, even though he's not, because the receivers that they have are more than serviceable. But I think they're going to try and hone in on Engram to take away the big playability that he had, because in that game when he had 130 yards, he averaged 21.5 yards per catch.
And I mean, it's crazy that in half-point scoring this year, the Arizona Cardinals are the seventh best team against tight ends, where they've been in the bottom three for like the past decade, and a lot of that goes to Isaiah Simmons. We haven't seen the tackle numbers that I think we were expecting out of Simmons this year, or the sack numbers, but he's done a great job at turning that defense into a better one, especially over the middle of the field.
Well, and it gave him a nice secondary star to Buda Baker in the secondary, which was a huge boost for that team in general.
Absolutely. Derek, who you got?
I'm steering away from the Tennessee tight ends in general. So we've seen Ferkser come alive the past few weeks. Jonnu Smith wasn't in the lineup last week. He's back today, but he's really disappeared. I mean, he's there to block at this point. They just don't really target Jonnu in that tight end one role as of late when he's been playing. And Ferkser, I think it's a little deceiving, especially his game last week. He salvaged his game because Tennessee was down 30 at halftime. They were down by 3 possessions in the beginning of the second quarter. They couldn't run the ball. They didn't do what they always do. Ryan Tannehill had 49 passes. And despite all that, Ferkser had 1 catch going in the fourth quarter. He ended up with 5 for 51 because of garbage time, but that's not going to happen today. So I just don't want the headache of trying to navigate these tight ends and figure it out. So I would much rather stream than put in Ferkser or Jonnu Smith today.
So I'm also going to take a team tandem of tight ends. I'm going to take the Eagles tight ends, Dallas Goedert, Zach Ertz. New Orleans over the last 6 weeks is number 1 in total defense. They are number 1 against the quarterback, number 1 against tight ends. I mean,
and that's on the year. The tight ends, yeah.
Right, yeah, number 1 on the year, and number 1 against the quarterback and tight end over the last 6 games. And now they get a rookie making his first start with a suspect offensive line that's going to be without Jason Peters, without Lane Johnson. He's hurt. Yeah, and he's going to have to make great use out of that.
Sheldon Rankins is back in the interior.
Ability, because he's going to see a lot of pressure. Cameron Jordan is licking his chops at this matchup.
Quit hating on my sleeper, Ryan.
Yeah, Cam Jordan gets some Jack Driscoll today at right tackle. That's not going to be too fun. Quan Alexander, I mean, I critique that move. I mean, his salary is a nightmare, but ever since they put him in at middle linebacker with Demario Davis, they've been great. I mean, that defense is legitimately a top 3 unit.
All right, sleepers of the week. Again, if you have a lineup question, got about 25 minutes before the 1:00 games begin and those lineups lock. Send in the questions in the comments. We will answer them live on air. All right, sleepers of the week. Quarterback, Tom.
I'm extending the conversation we were just having. I think that Jalen Hurts could potentially break the mountain that is the New Orleans Saints. And it's solely because there's no film on him, except for the 12 passes or whatever he threw last week, which he still threw for over 100 yards, which is a lot more you can say than Carson Wentz. Sorry, Derek. I'm not a huge. I'm a very anti-Wentz person. I think Jalen Hurts was a great addition for them. I think that he's going to be able to find the way to use those tight ends, get him for a bunch of short yardage PPR points, move him down the field. And I think that he's a super deep sleeper. I know he's not projected for a ton of points. I know he's not supposed to do well, but don't be surprised if he does go, if he pops off. I could really see him, I don't think they're going to beat the Saints by any means, but he could have a really solid fantasy day overall. And when it's all said and done.
I mean, look, I'll just speak to as an Eagles fan. I'm a little nervous for him. This is a really tough ask as a first start. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the only way he has a decent fantasy day is on the ground. He can run and escape a lot better than Carson Wentz. But when rookie quarterbacks are also impatient. I mean, you watched that game last week. His first read wasn't open. Even when he had a clean pocket, he was running. I think that's where mistakes happen. You force in passes you're not supposed to. Sacks happen that aren't supposed to happen. You run into sacks, fumbles, stuff like that. So I'm worried about that. And he's not accurate. He's not efficient. I mean, he missed a lot of easy throws in his garbage time slate last week. New Orleans is a lot better than Green Bay defensively. So I get worried about that stuff. I'm a little worried about him turning the ball over with this offensive line and these receivers. We just don't get separation. I could see him getting 50, 60 yards on the ground and a touchdown, though. So, I mean, I think that is definitely commendable. I think that's definitely possible. But it's a really tough ask to have him start today.
I think that a lot of that stuff that you're worried about could be worked out through film and through practicing as the actual QB1 instead of coming into practice with the first team as, the jet sweep guy or whatever he was running as before. I think that a full week of practice with a coach like Peterson, who, I understand he has some questionable calling.
The worst play caller besides Adam Gase this year. Objectively.
Objectively this year.
I mean, I know I'm biased, but I mean, we'll see today. He has to dumb it down for Hurts and help him out with a run game. He just has to. But he also just didn't do that with Carson either, who was struggling immensely. So we'll see.
I know. I think that a lot of your issues, and like we saw him at Oklahoma come in and he would make the throws. I think that coming into a game that late after not playing like a true quarterback role for this entire season, really. I think that a lot of people are sleeping on him when he can explode. So that's the last I'm going to say about it.
All right. Derek, who you got as your quarterback sleeper of the week?
Talked about him. Red Rocket, Andy Dalton. Revenge game against Cincinnati for the third pick. Look, I mean, this Dallas offense actually showed signs of life last Tuesday night in the first half. Zeke looked okay on the ground. Zach Martin's out, so that's a huge piece to it, but that's not the Baltimore front in Cincinnati today. So when Andy Dalton has a clean pocket, we've seen him exploit defenses like Minnesota a few weeks ago. So I actually think he has the potential for a solid game here. I mean, Cincinnati is really down on their coaches. I think Andy Dalton has something to play for as a revenge game. He wants to start in this league somewhere next year. So I actually think Andy Dalton's going to play well today.
I agree.
I actually like Dalton.
I love Dalton.
I have him in some of my cash lineups. I have 3 lineups that I put in a bunch of lineups. And hey, your boy's on fire in cash games. I've cashed in every single lineup over the last 3 weeks. Your boy is having a good stretch here. All right, we have another viewer question. Pick 2: Alvin Kamara, Adam Thielen, Jonathan Taylor. Adam Thielen is obviously number 1 here, so it would be between Kamara and Taylor. And as much as I love the Jonathan Taylor matchup this week,
it's Kamara.
I would feel there would be a hole in my stomach if I were to have lost and Kamara have been on my bench and went off.
Yeah, I mean, I think last week was Taylor's ceiling, his usage, which was 20 carries. It's about 4.5 yards per carry. Maybe he gets in the end zone. Yeah, maybe he gets in the end zone, but Nyheim Hines cuts into his work. Jordan Wilkins cuts into his work. And Kamara, we actually saw with Taysom Hill. He finally looked like that RB1 last week, even with Taysom at quarterback. So, yeah, I'm with Ryan. You can't go into the playoffs benching Kamara off what he did last week for Jonathan Taylor. It's too risky.
If we had seen another week of what looked like the previous 2 with Kamara, I would have.
I'd go Taylor too. Yeah,
I could have gone Taylor, but after what we saw with Kamara last week, Taysom Hill finally started to get him involved in his version of this Saints offense.
I was just gonna say stick by your studs, so I was going Thielen and Kamara anyway.
All right. Thank you for the question. Now we are going on to my quarterback sleeper of the week. And it is going to be that very same Jonathan Taylor's quarterback. And it's Phillip Rivers. Gets to go up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now the Raiders, it looks like they will be getting Jonathan Abram back, but they will be without Damon Arnett. They'll be without Isaiah Johnson. It looks like this week. And over the last 4 weeks, the fewest amount of yards that Phillip Rivers has thrown in a game is 285. That happened to be last week, but he was still 27 of 35 for 285 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's just been really, really efficient. He had 295 the week before, 288 against Green Bay the week before that, 308 against Tennessee the week before that. He's not. It's not pretty when he does it, but the job has been getting done. And Michael Pittman, we mentioned him earlier, has really become an integral part of this lineup. And finally, T.Y. Hilton. T.Y. Hilton is he's on fire. I mean, 3
Good call. Really I think it was Derek had him last week as a sleeper, right? Ryan.
I had Kiki.
That was close. I knew one of you had each. I was like, it's 1-1. I don't know. But hey, that was a fantastic call. I love that for you. Great call.
He loves the Texans. He loves playing the Texans.
I brought up the side, and he gets the Texans next week.
Yeah.
Going into last week, it was 16 games, so a full season. He had was it 85 catches for 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns.
It's pretty good. Whatever it is, I mean, in TY the last 2 weeks, I mean, we actually have seen him get in the end zone now. So I think that he was missing something in that chemistry with Rivers, but now it seems seamless right now.
And Rivers is benefiting from now 2 running backs who can catch the ball out of the backfield and 3 tight ends. who can all catch the ball. I mean, they have a very, very balanced offense in terms of run versus pass and where they can pass it to. All right, we do have another question. Full PPR, start 2 in wide receiver 2 and flex. CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Kiki Kuti, Chase Edmonds, and Gio Bernard. So let's throw out Chase Edmonds. He's the number 2 back in a bad matchup. So we're going to forget about Chase Edmonds here.
I nominate QT as the wide receiver 2 here.
I'm throwing away T here.
Yeah. I talked about Boyd as my dud.
Mm-hmm.
The quarterback scares me. So QT is number 1 for me. So it would be between Gio and CD, and I would probably lean towards the guaranteed workload with Gio against that Dallas defense.
Yep,
I agree.
On the same page.
Thank you so much for your question. We have another question, half PPR, Corey Davis. Okay. So this was the one from earlier. Favored by 20. So I mean, don't look at projections.
Yeah.
Don't. I mean, when is I know the Seahawks are playing at 4. When do the Titans play today?
I thought they were 1.
I think they're 1. I'm pretty sure they're 1.
1 o'clock.
Let me see.
Yeah.
1 o'clock.
So if you're looking for a safety play to maintain that idealized lead that you have based on projections, I'd probably lean towards Lockett.
Yeah, Lockett or Davis, and then if you want a home run, it's AJ Brown.
Sticking by the answer we said before.
So
doesn't matter because projections don't matter.
Knowing this and knowing that he's not looking for that home run play, I I'd lean towards the safer play with either Lockett or Davis.
Yep.
Yep.
I was
All
projected a 4% chance to win this week, and then Cam Akers popped off for 20, and Robert Woods had 6, and now it's 50-50 game. So that just goes to show they don't know anything.
Yeah, projections are just to give people false hope.
Yes.
You use your own intelligence. Okay. Running back sleepers of the week. Tom, who we got?
We've been talking about him a little bit this morning. Melvin Gordon is my sleeper of the week, and I know I've had many problems with Melvin Gordon this morning, hence my 2 strokes. But Melvin Gordon, we saw him last week break out for 131 yards on 15 attempts. He didn't really get involved in the passing game. He only got the 1 catch for 11 yards, but he's a guy we saw him with the Chargers when it was him and Eckler. He had the ability to pass catch. Eckler was just better. So I really want to see for him to going forward for him. I want to see him kind of take over as the true number 1 there and break off his tandem with Lindsey as the pass catcher, or as for Lindsey being the pass catcher. If he does that, the sky's the limit. But as in terms of this week versus Carolina, 27th ranked defense against opposing running backs, he should feast on the ground. And like I said, I don't know what Philip Lindsay's status is for this week. I think I saw a report that he was ready for Sunday, but he's still coming off an injury. I think it could be a huge Melvin Gordon day. If you're looking for a daily fantasy guy who's a little bit cheaper, or if you're looking for a guy who might be on the waiver wire like I found him this week, definitely pick him up and play him in those.
Derek, how about you?
I am going with Tom's Jets. I am going with Ty Johnson. Look, they're finally phasing out Frank Gore. It was the Ty Johnson and Josh Adams show last week. Former Eagle great Josh Adams. He is out of the equation now. As Tom just said, he's hurt. So it's going to be all Ty Johnson. He has some juice to him. I mean, he averaged 5 yards a carry, had over 100 yards. I know it was a better matchup against Las Vegas, but it's not like Seattle's defense has been world beaters against the run. They've been a little better than they are against the pass, but they have to go back to that ground game. They can't just rely on Darnold to drop back 40 times a game. So I think, Frank Gore got hurt. Frank Gore got hurt. But look, Ty Johnson's the best guy in that backfield as of now without Pirine. And the addition of Pat Elflein at left guard has been – it was instrumental in their rushing attack last week. He was waived by Minnesota. He was hurt in the early part of the season, waived. Jets picked him up off waivers, and him alongside Mekhi Becton on that left side is lethal in the run game. And they were basically just running behind those two for 180 yards against Las Vegas last week. And Seattle's front doesn't scare me. They'll send Jamal Adams off the edge in certain blitzes for big plays, but over the course of a game on first and second down, they're still going to have solid run looks against the Seattle front. So I think Ty Johnson is a decent stream this week.
I'm actually in the process of making the choice. I have until 4:00 because it's 2 running backs in the 4:00 window. It's in a 16-team league, so depth is crazy in that league. Miles Sanders or Ty Johnson.
I talked to you guys about my decision. I had Antonio Gibson, Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon, all on that team. They're all out, so I have to figure out between Gio, Latavius Murray, or Ty Johnson. And I'm going with Ty, personally.
I would go Ty. I gave my 2 cents immediately.
Yeah.
He's going to be involved. He's a good pass catcher. We saw him running last week.
Yeah.
I like him. And Josh Adams.
It was actually a opponent rushing attack. I can't say the same for Cincinnati. I just think Gio will get cheap points. I think he has a floor of 8 or 9 points, and maybe he gets in the end zone. But Ty Johnson was actually good last week, and it's not a scary matchup to me. For Ryan, it depends. I think I would actually go Ty Johnson over Miles to me.
I benched Sanders for that perspective spot of Ty Johnson, or I think I had Gio in that league too.
I mean, just look at the matchup.
Yeah.
Even if Miles Sanders gets 15 touches, I'm not confident he's going to get yards against New Orleans.
Yep.
And so my running back sleeper is J.D. McKissick. We've talked about him a lot this week. And the fact he's only 5,300 on FanDuel. He is currently salaried less than Selvin Ahmed, who is not playing. Le'Veon Bell, Alexander Madison, Leonard Fournette, Anthony McFarland Jr., Philip Lindsay. These are all guys who are priced ahead of J.D. McKissick this week.
Yikes!
It's in FanDuel. He's a free play. He's going to allow you to spend up everywhere else, and even in your season-long league, especially in a PPR, he has that certain floor that you can rely upon, and even in a tough matchup, I'm not scared, because in tough matchups, Alex Smith tends to check it down to those backs even more. So I think we've all established how much we love J.D. McKissick.
So, I was just gonna say off that you made me think of it, Ryan. How sad was Le'Veon Bell last week as the workhorse? That was atrocious. His downfall from 2 years ago, from what he was to 3 years ago on the Steelers. I mean, it's sad. He has. I mean, and they ran him to the ground at Pittsburgh, and the year off really it didn't matter. He's broken.
I mean, he looks like he took like a full season off.
Yes. There's no explosion. It's just uninspiring. In that offense and the Chiefs, if you can't run against those depleted boxes in Kansas City, I don't really know where he'll succeed.
The fit just doesn't go, because KC is let's get the ball and go downfield. And he wants to dance behind the line. And
they need someone who's explosive back there, someone who is downhill, who has some juice to him, and Le'Veon Bell's not that.
Not it. Okay, let's get into wide receiver sleepers of the week. Tom, what you got?
So I still don't know the outcome of whether Jamison Crowder is going to play or not. I would definitely play him versus Seattle with their atrocious pass defense, but if he ends up not playing, I'm going with Sterling Shepard. I talked about it a little bit when I was talking to Evan Engram. He is a very viable receiving option for Daniel Jones when he plays. When you look at him over the fantasy outlook of the season, week 1, he had 10 points. Then he got hurt in week 2, didn't play until week 7. Then when he came back in week 7, it went 17, 15, 11, 10, bye week 13, and last week was 5 with Colt McCoy. His chemistry with Daniel Jones is off the charts. Any week that those two play together, they've gotten double-digit points. So if you're looking for a guy who, cheap on FanDuel, a guy that might be on waivers, whatever, Shepard is going to guarantee you a minimum of 10 points with Daniel Jones back in this week, regardless of injuries.
Absolutely. Derek, who you got?
I'm going Brandon Ayuk. I think this guy's been almost forgotten when we talk about rookie receivers, but he is 16th among receivers in points per game. Now, he's missed some time with injuries. He was out. He missed 2 games for COVID tracking. But when he's played, he's been phenomenal. I mean, he got 16 points last week. Or no, more than that in PPR. I mean, he had 5 catches, 95 yards, and he got a score. But my biggest question with him was, how is he going to play with Debo? It was the first time both of them were at full strength playing together, and it didn't matter. I mean, he's a focal point, especially without Kittle. I feel really confident firing up Ayuk pretty much every single week from here on out. I mean, wide receiver 16, he's a borderline low-end receiver 1, the way he's been playing every week. So, look, he's not a guy that hasn't been talked about among the rookie receivers enough. He's phenomenal. I love Ayuk.
So I'm going to go with Mike Williams from the Los Angeles Chargers. The Atlanta Falcons, who they're matched up against today, have given up the most receiving yards to wide receivers over the course of the year. And he's the downfield option for Justin Herbert. We've started to see him get utilized into the offense more and more as the weeks go along. Obviously, not last week when the entire Chargers offense crapped the bed against New England. But this is somebody who I think is, as long as he's healthy and on the field, is going to be able to produce. And it's such a great matchup. So I really, really like Mike Williams as a sleeper option this week.
Love Mike
All right.
Williams.
Yeah, I know you wanted
Yeah,
him.
I know.
I had to make sure
so
that you knew
good.
that I already took him.
He comes down with every 50-50 ball. Like, he's ridiculous. Yeah. He's so good.
All right, let's wrap up sleepers with tight ends. Tom, who you got?
Got a borderline stud for the week because he was my original stud until I got called out for Hawk being a sleeper by someone I know. Noah Fant this week versus Carolina. I know I already had Melvin Gordon as a sleeper this week. Noah Fant has been Drew Lock's favorite target, even if it doesn't produce into fantasy points, because Drew Lock tends to miss a lot of throws.
They got to move on from him next year.
I don't know. I want to give him another year. I like Drew Lock. I think he has the ability. He just
something guys like Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, like, they don't even see the ball every week. And I mean, their receiving core is good. It's really good. It's really young. They need someone who can actually give them volume. I mean, that's just where I stand with Lock. But sometimes he shows flashes too. He looks
really. Remember that game that they beat the Chargers on?
I was going to say Chargers fourth quarter, Atlanta fourth quarter. I mean, sometimes he shows it.
Yeah, he's got the ability. I think he might need a new head coach, but I don't want to really give up on their coach just yet. But Fant is going to get a ton of targets. If he can hold them down, maybe he'll reach the end zone. I don't know.
Josh.
Yeah, Josh.
Josh Allen.
And Seattle.
And then Seattle. Easy. Done.
Yeah. Josh Allen, Seattle.
Hey, how about Stafford to the Broncos there next year? If they end up drafting quarterback, Stafford to the Broncos.
I think they should go with Fitz. I think they should go with easy 1 year guy, or maybe a Minshew, because it's clear Jacksonville is not riding the Minshew train anymore. I think you could get a guy like Fitz or Minshew for a fifth or fourth rounder. You keep your high pick. They're not going to win next year if they have Stafford. I think they could be a good team. But they need to bring in a quarterback next year and then draft someone they like and not just force a lock pick. I thought they forced that in the second round. They didn't need to.
Yep. All right. Ty Johnson, DeAndre Washington, Singletary, Barton, Peyton Barber, Ty Johnson.
Yeah.
Ty Johnson all around.
Yeah, that's not even a question.
Yeah, that was a pretty easy one. All right. Anyway. Derek, who you got tight end sleeper of the week?
I'll go with Akins in Houston. I think they have to steer more towards 12 personnel today with him and Darren Fells. They just don't have receivers today. And juggling between Akins and Fells, I just like Akins because he's more athletic. He has more upside. He is a way better runner after the catch. So I like that matchup. And Chicago has been bleeding points to tight ends. So I actually feel pretty good if you need a stream option about Jordan Akins.
And especially with Brandon Cooks being out, that can only increase the targets to the tight ends. If Kareem Hunt is in there, Kareem Hunt is your number two. Yeah.
Kareem and Ty, yeah.
Kareem and Ty, you're not playing Washington, Singletary, or Barber over Kareem.
No,
absolutely not.
All right. Should I start Beasley, Parker, QT, or Ayuk? Oh, because it's not the here. Who do I choose between DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, and this? These are end of the roster guys who have been really productive. Aside from Parker, who's the highest.
Parker. I would put Parker last in this one. He's good. But he's been good. Yeah.
To me, it's between QT and Beasley for me.
Yep.
I'd probably lean.
I don't know.
I went QT. Quick answer, straight from
the
gut.
The weather worries me a little bit. I mean, it's cold. It's going to be windy, so I think Beasley's safer. I think Ayuk's safer than QT too. These are still Chicago's defense. They've been bad. Deshaun Watson's phenomenal. all that
Yeah.
stuff. But I mean, Cuty's not going to do what he did last week. He's not going to. I don't expect 140 yards to touchdown. He had a 70-yard catch. I don't expect that to happen. So Beasley's going to see 10 targets. Like he will see 10 targets. Ayuk is that guy that he's their down the field guy. He's so good after the catch. So I would go Beasley, Ayuk, Cutie to me.
With the injuries in the Pittsburgh secondary and to Bud Dupree, that pass rush is not going to be nearly as effective. Yeah,
he's a high-end wide receiver too. I mean,
Beasley is my number one here. Mm-hmm. All right, we'll wrap it up with my my tight end stud of the week, and I'm gonna go to the well one more time, like I did last week. Nobody else listened to me because Cole Kmet is still only 3% owned on ESPN and 1% owned on Yahoo, and Cole Kmet is the starting tight end for the Chicago Bears, and he is going up against the Houston defense, who just bleeds points everywhere, especially recently to the tight end. I'm rolling the dice with Kmet again. All right, let's wrap it up with our lock pick, our against the spread pick, and our stack of the week. Tom, who you got?
For my stack, I'm taking my quarterback and Derek's wideout with Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen. My lock, I like Indy over Las Vegas. I know it's a close point spread, but if I have to pick it straight up, I'm going with Indy. And then my against the spread, I called it last week, and I'm going back to it. The Jets will not lose by 2 touchdowns today. They will be able to keep it within that 13.5.
Derek, how about you?
We just sang praises for Cole Beasley. I will go with Josh and Cole. I don't want to pay up too much with Diggs, so I think Cole Beasley's a nice consolation. My lock, New Orleans over the rookie quarterback for sure. And he'll be Baron Carson. I mean, I'm excited to see the game, but I mean, I just don't see any world where New Orleans doesn't win today. And I'm going to go KC -7. Over Miami. Now, they haven't covered the last 4 weeks, so Vegas is probably building more towers as we speak, the way Kansas City's been coasting. They showboat each week. They do the bare minimum to win each week, but, I mean, it's just such a – I think matchup-wise, it's a nightmare for Miami, how much Kansas City blitzes, no Myles Gaskin in that backfield to alleviate any pressure for Tua, and they play a bunch of man-to-man coverage themselves. And I think that's where Patrick Mahomes is at his best, when they blitz and they go against a cover 1, cover 0 team like Miami. So I actually think Kansas City's going to look like themselves today and blow them out.
My stack of the week is going to be Ryan Tannehill and Corey Davis. My lock of the week is going to be those Tennessee Titans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. My against the spread pick is going to be the Washington football team +3 against the San Francisco 49ers. I think it's a game they could potentially win outright. And if you can get 3 points on top of that, I love it. And my bonus is the Tennessee Titans and Jacksonville Jaguars going over. This is one of the craziest stats. Since Ryan Tannehill took over as quarterback of the Tennessee Titans, it's 22 games. The over has come through 18 of those 22 times.
Wow.
18-3-1, one push.
Last week, too, was a dangerous over-under. It was 54.5 against Cleveland, and I was tempted to take the under because of how much each team ran the ball. I thought there were going to be less possessions, but I stayed away from it, and it absolutely hammered the over with, was it 76 points? That God, I didn't.
I'm pretty sure it went over.
But yeah, I mean, it's just such a potent offense. That's a crazy stat.
Yeah. Okay, so and first week just end the season.
Nice.
If we did, all you can start talking about is whether or not Trevor Lawrence is going to demand a trade before the draft.
Eli Manning too, baby.
He won't.
So that's going to wrap it up for today. Good luck in your playoffs. guys. I hope you have your success. I know some of you've got a couple leagues that you've got playoffs going on. I have two that I am playing this week, and two that I have a buy-in. So, and then two that the regular season ends this week. So, we still got a lot of football to talk about, boys.
Let's go, Ty Johnson.
I'm ready. Let's go, Ty Johnson. That's right, baby.
Go.
Pride and joy right here.
I need it.
I need it too, just for my health.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up. Again, make sure you are following Back Sports Page on all social media at Back Sports Page. Click the like and subscribe button. Make sure that you know when we are going live. And that'll do it for us. You can follow me on Twitter at rstern33. You can follow Tom on Twitter at THB315. Derek is at Derek Mountain. And Derek, we will reconvene on Wednesday for the Zero Technique. And Tom, we will see you next Sunday for another BSP Sunday Morning Fantasy.
Aye, aye, Captain.
All right, guys. Have a great week. Enjoy your fantasy playoffs and the football.
As you.